morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I'm Ellen Stofan, the Undersecretary for Science and Research at the Smithsonian Institution. You know, we know that people of talent are everywhere, and more importantly, look like all of us. And we also know that the jobs of today and tomorrow increasingly require STEM skills. You know, women make up more than half the population and yet are underrepresented in STEM jobs, especially computer science and engineering. And we know that women of color appear in even lower numbers than white women. When I led the Air and Space Museum as the first woman director, I worked on expanding the stories we told to inspire all girls. From Kathryn Johnson to astronaut Ellen Ochoa, we know this is not a skill problem. This means we are leaving creativity, ingenuity, and problem solvers behind when we leave girls behind. So today, we're going to have an amazing conversation talking about this issue of women in STEM and how to address this problem. The 2022 Science and Engineering indicators indicated that women represent about 34% of STEM workers in 2019. So I want to ask our panelists, how has your team focused on promoting and increasing STEM careers to women and girls? And Dr. McQuiston, I'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Beth McQuiston. I am a neurologist and registered dietitian. I lead global neuroscience research at Abbott, and Abbott is a global health tech company. One of the things that we're very focused on is making sure that we have the best and brightest scientists in the world working on our projects. And that obviously means we have a huge initiative to incorporate women, to bring in that smart, imaginative, creative thinking. One of the things that we've done is develop a STEM internship program. And our goal is by the year 2030, we'll have over 100,000 minorities and underrepresented groups participating in that STEM program. It's been a phenomenal program. I've been proud to be part of that and watch these young women go from high school to college to careers in science. And we know the success of this program because we see the vast majority of these young girls go on to major in STEM programs in college after they've worked with us. And these aren't internships where they're getting coffee. These are internships where they're working with our most senior leaders and creating projects and creating products that change the world.
Great. Kathryn.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Karol, and I have the privilege of serving as the Senior Vice President at Caterpillar. I also serve as the chair of the Caterpillar Foundation. Our foundation just celebrated our 70th anniversary, and Caterpillar is about to celebrate our centennial in 2025, and it's just a pleasure to be here. Caterpillar, as you may know, is a company that has construction industries, resource industries, and we have a large energy and transportation business as well. And so by the very nature of Caterpillar, we bring in engineers. Engineers are the core to who we are and how we develop our innovation around the world. From a STEM perspective, my hat today will be from the Caterpillar Foundation, and STEM and working with young women and young people all over the world is part of our core mission as a foundation. And what we really seek to do is to inspire, especially young girls, and encourage them to explore the opportunities that STEM will provide for them, and then engage them in STEM programs as best as possible to encourage them to seek STEM-related careers. So I know we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about some of the programs that we're working on, not just in the US, but around the world. And we're excited to talk about that. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kathryn. Fred?
Yeah, lovely to be here. My name is Fred Tan. I am the Global Head of Social Impact at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and help to look after our foundation as well. And I think core to my belief in what our approach is at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, like you said, talent is everywhere. We believe that there is no shortage in talent. There's a shortage of opportunities. And we take a look internally, us as individuals, company, industries, and what we can do to increase opportunities for all. How can we help those who are locked out of tech careers and opportunities to access that, spark interest, catalyze opportunities, and then crucially as well, see that there is no one path into a STEM career. And I love being on a panel with these incredible leaders, and I feel so inspired to be with them because they show that there isn't one path into STEM. Something that we just wrapped up this past weekend was a collaboration with the Golden State Warriors. We outfit their stadium to bring a world-class fan experience, using technology to elevate the fan experience. And we took girls from diverse communities backstage to see how technology makes a basketball game all come together. And if you're interested in basketball, if you're interested in tech, those two things are not mutually exclusive. So we really try again to help everyone see that no matter what their interest, there's a pathway into STEM for them.
Certainly. Thank you for having me. My name is Amanda Baxter. I work at Transurban as a Senior Vice President. We are a global leader in the toll road development and operations. So if some of you live in the area, maybe you took our express lanes to get here today, and I hope you made it on time. 40% of our actual jobs at Transurban, our careers, require some level of STEM. As you can imagine, a lot of technology is on the side of our road, but we also have a lot of ongoing construction projects. So I'm really proud to represent the 44% female workforce that is represented across Transurban globally. And then even further, 50% of our executive committee globally is made up of females. So a lot of strong female leaderships. There's many of us and a lot of opportunities. I just will tell you a couple of things that we've done at Transurban to embrace that. Firstly, we have a Females Excelling in Engineering program where we bring females into a program within the business to attach them closer to executives, as well as learning a little bit more about where they can actually take their career within our business. But one thing we haven't touched on this morning that I think that it will be a good theme today is, what about the youth? I hear what you say about the 15%, and what about the youth wanting to come up through STEM. We actually partner with a lot of community colleges in the area locally. We have a partnership with Stafford County to really embed ourselves into the youth here, the programs. And I think that that's a really important part of what we do at Transurban. We've also have performed a few leadership programs within our business as well that target women in engineering. And I'm proud to say that we have a lot of construction projects happening across our region, and one of our leading construction projects right now is the extension of our express lanes to the American Legion Bridge. The entire construction leadership team of that project is all led by women. It's just fantastic to see.
I get really excited when I go by a big construction project. Like, I've spent a lot of time looking at the 66 construction project, and when I see women out there, it's like, yes.
Especially on Caterpillar machines. So
exactly.
we count how many CAT equipments are there.
Any empty chairs here are people probably who didn't take the express. That's right. So Dr. McQuiston, I want to come back to, what are some of the primary impediments to the participation of women and girls in STEM fields? There's so many, but
so many, and so many opportunities. I would say the number one is the lack of exposure. So, for example, I'm a neuroscientist. I didn't know I wanted to do that. I was a dietitian first, then was exposed to it, and now, 40 patents later, it's been going pretty well, right? But I had no idea. So I would say lack of exposure. And that's, again, where our STEM program helps. These kids in high school and college, they rotate through all of these different STEM areas so they can see what really resonates with them. So I think providing opportunities to have young girls and women see different aspects of STEM, that is going to turn the light bulb on for some of them, and just they'll take to it like a duck to water. Absolutely, they'll love it. But you don't know unless you're exposed to it.
Brad, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are two problems that we're trying to solve for at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. One is structural. Can I intentionally design equity into our processes, from talent to talent management, career development? How can I get the right structure in place? And then the second is culture. How can I get because we're not just trying to change action, we're trying to change minds. How can I create a right culture where women are able to thrive in the workplace that we create? And if I flip it on its head, those two are the impediments. What we're trying to drive at is that in every individual, there's a change that needs to happen in us, and then a change that needs to happen through us. And without both of those happening, we aren't going to see the participation and the support that I think we're all looking for.
Amanda, what are your thoughts?
Sure. I think definitely lack of visibility is part of that, but also the actual modeling of a female in a leadership role or in a STEM role. I know when we talked a little bit, I found a fellow geology degree major just backstage. When, you know, in the early 90s when I graduated with a geology undergrad, and now here I am working on toll roads, there wasn't not a lot of females. So there was nothing to look to like, how is your job? How do you do your job? I'm out in the field, and there's a lot of differences when you're a female working outside all day long, and just strength and just all of that to do your job. And what do these people look like me? And I think that we talk about that very broadly. Everyone is looking for leaders that look like them. And how can you model that? And I really think at Transurban, we've done a really good job. We have a diverse group of women in many, many levels within the organization. We've also implemented so many mentoring programs to actually provide that modeling, to give that exposure.
That's amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just love to build on that point. One of the things that we're excited about at Caterpillar is around that mentoring or shadowing, where we are able to bring in young students who are female STEM focused, and they're able to shadow some of our women leaders. We have demonstration centers so they can actually go and learn and see what a technical degree or a technical career can provide for them in their careers, and really get them excited about it. So having those women role models in the field of engineering, mathematics, really does connect so they can see themselves. One of the other impediments is really affordability. And through our Caterpillar Foundation, we work with partners, many of whom are in the room here, that allow for that affordability. We're working in the Democratic Republic of Congo with an organization called Malika. And we have 400 girls who would not normally be able to afford to up their skill sets and get that right technical credentialing to be able to apply for the careers in the STEM field. So affordability and then those mentorship programs are so key to break down some of that barriers that these young women have into getting into STEM.
You know, two of these things that we touched on here, I think are so, you know, this inspiration representation piece, which is something we really work on at the Smithsonian. How do you make sure people see women have done amazing things? And I personally felt that because my dad worked for NASA, but I never thought women worked for NASA. It was picking up National Geographic and reading about Jane Goodall and Mary Leakey that I'm like, oh, women are out there doing cool stuff. I can do that. I think is so important. And then this opportunity piece, which all of you are obviously working on so hard. I want to pivot to the role of partnerships in effectively carrying out this kind of work. How do you identify and collaborate with partners around the world? And how do you then, and this is I think the thing that we're also focused on, how do we measure the impact? Are these programs actually working? And so Kathryn, I'm gonna start with you. You already mentioned, you know, one of the programs, and I know that Caterpillar works with the United Nations Girls Up initiative to create and support STEM leadership and training for girls around the world. So I'm wondering if you can expand on this international work you're doing.
I'd be happy to. The United Nations is actually headquartered, the foundation is headquartered here in Washington, so we're very lucky to have the partnership of Girl Up. Melissa Kirby leads that for the UN Foundation, and we've been a partner with Girl Up for quite some time, but much more recently focused specifically on STEM. Girl Up has a membership of over 30,000 girls around the world, predominantly the US, but also in many, many other countries. And they're just building this amazing alum organization as well. And the focus on access to STEM education through sort of the digitalizing and sort of building these capabilities is core to the program that we participate with them on, and we're excited to see a lot of the results. We also work with the Manufacturing Institute and Heroes Make America program, and we have a young woman, for example, out of Kansas who is a veteran, came back from serving in her capacity as a military armed services, and part of that program is upskilling again, providing that right education for that specific credentialing that they can get to start a second career once they serve in our US military. So programs like that, like Girl Up, inspiring the young, but also taking people who have careers and skilling them up even further for the demand for the jobs that are out there in STEM, are definitely ways to pull that together. For us, measurement is really how many girls and young women are you inspiring? How many are you actually getting those specific credentials so they can apply for these careers? And then how many are actually getting into those jobs and being rewarded for the work and the careers that they have? So those are some good measurement tools for the Caterpillar Foundation anyway.
I love that, and I love how you know, we all know this is a pipeline or a pathway, and the fact that you're attacking multiple parts of that pipeline problem is great. Amanda, Transurban is headquartered and operating in Australia, Canada, and the United States. How do you take a global view and identify the different partnerships and unique opportunities of those partnerships in all of your different operating areas?
Sure. You know, at Transurban, we do look for global opportunities to really mirror our business model. Of course, I've recently joined the International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association. So that's an international, it's focused on tolling and transportation, but even through that reach, we can work with different opportunities to get women through programs in technology to work in transportation, not only just on the construction side, but of course this technology side that I've talked about. It's incredible to see the amount of technology on the roadside. So understanding what that looks like from a global portfolio has been very, very important for us. And one thing I want to mention is it is important to ensure that as you are, and like I said earlier, modeling, you're looking for opportunities to do international, to reach out internationally, to see what other people are doing and bring those lessons back here to really expand upon that network of young females and females in STEM.
So Dr. McQuiston, I know that Abbott partners with STEM Connector, which was key in helping Abbott develop its STEM blueprint aimed at helping other companies create sustainable STEM internship programs for high school students. Can you talk about that?
Love to talk about that, and I'm so proud of all of our girls that have matured on to young women, are staying in the STEM field. As I mentioned earlier, it's 90 to 95% of them that come in through our high school program go on to STEM careers, and then they're connected to each other, and they're connected to higher level women, just as we're talking about with that example. We've made it open source so everyone can have access to it. It's www.stem.abbott, that's ABBOTT. A lot of folks have been coming back and telling us that they've adopted that blueprint. We want to make it available to everyone. It's been tremendously successful. It's really inspired and changed the course of young women's trajectory in terms of careers that they choose. So again, www.stem.abbott. I'm here to answer any questions. We feel very passionately about this program. We're in 70 different countries globally, and we have this, as we were talking about, it's so important to have that global reach. We have a big program, for example, in Saudi Arabia. But even if someone joins in Chicago, they have that global opportunity. They even get to meet our CEO and meet our corporate officers and senior leaders, and we mentor them throughout their progression. So highly recommend it. It not only brings value to the interns, but it brings value to us. You get that creative spark. And I have to tell you, I'm a proud little mama bear. I had one of my STEM girls reach out to me the other day, and she's working on a project on a better way to collect CSF, cerebral spinal fluid, to make it safer for patients. And she called and said, I'm working on this. So I couldn't be more proud.
How do you think about this issue of measuring impact?
I think for us, one of the things is, are they tracking into the career? So we've been tremendously successful. So being able to expose them, that's one thing that we track. How many areas have we exposed you to? We try to make it as diverse as possible. And ultimately, after they've been exposed to these areas, do they choose to go into it? And they do. And then on top of that, we're bringing some of them back to work for us. You know, they loved it and they stay connected. I think that's tremendously important.
Fred, please tell us now how HPE utilizes its external partnerships to ensure longevity and drive impact in your STEM programs.
Yeah, of course. We're blessed to work with many great nonprofit organizations, folks like Career Village that crowdsources career advice for students who typically wouldn't be able to go to folks for advice. We work with Curated Pathways for Innovation. We actually were a founding member, bringing really our expertise as a business in AI and machine learning. How can we create a tool that will direct students to the best resources for them? And the career pathway that they want to take. Understanding that, you know, some career resources and STEM education resources are better suited towards certain demographics rather than another. And if you want to go into, for example, basketball and tech, you learn something else versus if you want to go into a different sector. So partnerships like that with nonprofit organizations are something that we're really proud of. But back to what I shared right at the beginning with Golden State Warriors, we're also looking at who are in our sphere of influence in our network: customers, partners, ecosystem partners, alliance partners. How can we multiply the effect that we're trying to create together to reach the communities that we want to reach? And so when we think of impact, we think of similar things that folks have mentioned. Are we reaching the right communities? Can we demonstrate that? Are we increasing interest? Is there a conversion into career? But the other element of partnerships that I think is really important also are internal partnerships, in the sense that I represent a foundation and a social impact team, but a lot of the meaningful work that we do in getting women into STEM are partnerships with other teams. And so with Golden State Warriors, our global sponsorship team, we run a program called the Cybersecurity Career Reboot Program, where our chief security officer had a vision: tearing up the certificates, anyone who is interested in cybersecurity can come in. And so you talk about what impact are we measuring as well, the impact that we really try to have in this case, for example, in 5, 10, 20 years time, can we see more women in executive leadership positions? And it would make our hearts sing if one of them said that they are there because of an opportunity that we were able to open for them. And I love that because one of my favorite books is Upstream by Dan Heath. And he said, you cannot help 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people until you learn how to help the one. And I think for us, that's really the impact that we're trying to have. We care about spreading our reach, but we want to make sure that for each and every one, we're changing their lives and opening up the opportunity that they want open for them. So that's what we like.
That's amazing, and it really goes to this issue of it's how do you inspire the individual, and that's why this all hands on deck effort to get to talent is absolutely so important. That's really critical. Now, I know one of these issues, you know, we've talked about the inspiration piece, we've talked about the internship and getting women into these STEM fields. How do we keep them? Because we all know, again, it's a pipeline problem. We all know that once women are actually in companies, they tend, or in STEM fields, they tend to leave at a slightly higher rate, if not a greatly higher rate than men, and there's lots of reasons for that. So, Amanda, how does Transurban think about this? How do you retain, you guys have amazing numbers of women, so I'm curious how you think about retaining those women.
Sure, something very unique, and it's a growing trend, and we talked a little bit about this last night at our dinner, is Transurban offers 6 weeks paid parental leave. And that's really a huge deal, full pay, and then you have up to a year that you could take off, and that is also for the moms and the dads. And I think that what we're seeing, especially after the COVID impact and people really kind of bringing their personal lives into work and wanting to look for that balance, that has really helped secure people to say that not only can I grow my family, but I can sustain my career. I think beyond that, we are dealing with a pretty spread out time zone when we're working with one another, and with that needs to come flexibility. You cannot expect somebody that might stay on the phone, maybe it's our cyber team talking here in the US with Australia, and there's that sweet spot of time where we overlap and everyone's awake. And so you're not going to expect the person, of course, in the US to then come to work at the crack of dawn, and just that flexibility that we offer. And that has been like a long transition here at Transurban. We also recognize that we have an ability to take a sabbatical at Transurban as well, which I think has been a really interesting. I personally had said last night, I don't know if I can really clue out one person that has done that, and I see one of my colleagues here, maybe she would know, but I also think it's just a fantastic way to say, this is what we're trying to tell you. You are not living to work. You are working to live. You know, this is a place where you can grow your career and feel like you are treated like a person, with the full acknowledgement that you certainly have a life outside of this place, but you have the ability to feel successful and have the aspiration to grow your career.
You know, that's one of the things I'm really passionate about, because I actually worked for about 8 years at home part-time when my kids were little, and yet came back into the workforce and made it somehow into leadership positions. So this issue of flexibility, I think, is really important. Fred, how are you thinking about this issue?
Yeah, we think about it again, structural and then cultural. So structural, like what Amanda's doing at Transurban, we've got a work that fits your life program. How can we provide the flexibility for our team members to thrive? We also take a look at, again, unconventional and non-traditional ways. I talked about the Career Reboot program, which is, again, people who do not have typical cybersecurity qualifications coming into the workplace and seeing that they can learn and thrive. This might be your mother who a couple of months ago was bagging groceries at the grocery store. It could be, and actually was one of them, someone who had 2 kids and then had a couple of strokes and wanted to return to the workforce. And we take a look at, can we provide the right structure and support so that they can advance in their career? Things like an executive sponsorship program to get women the visibility that they need to advance into VP level positions. We also do things like tagging our executive compensation to diversity targets. Right? We do that with business. We do that with sustainability and net zero targets. We do that with diversity targets as well. And so there's structural, and then there's also cultural. And this is a part that I feel really strongly about, because the structure is great. But from a culture perspective, can we identify, for example, unconscious biases that women in the workplace face? Can we uncover them and then eliminate them? And in so doing, create a supportive workplace where, again, women can feel like they can thrive, making it a safe place. So those are 2 things that we're doing.
That's great. And I read something the other day, and they said someone was saying unconscious bias isn't real, and I'm like, there's a stack of research. I'm 5'3". There's a stack of research taller than I am that says it's real. Beth, you look like you want to add.
Oh, I agree. I think this is 100% spot on. I think everything that people have up here has said has been inspiring and accurate, and I would challenge everybody in this room, we can all go out and make a big difference, right? The other thing that I think is important to think about, especially with our young girls, is talk to your friends, talk to the dads, talk to the moms, find a champion for them, have them exposed to different things. The world is so big, and there are so many opportunities. When I had someone come change my air conditioning at my house, I said, you know what, do you mind showing my daughter what you're doing? Why not, right? So I was challenging my own bias, where I was thinking, oh, the guys are gonna work on that. It's like, wait a minute, no, my daughter could work on that if she wanted to, so can you show her how to do that? So, I think it's interesting. We all have our own biases, and we can challenge those and eradicate them.
Kathryn, some final thoughts.
Well, all of these interconnect, and I think we talked about the whole ecosystem, right? How do you inspire and bring young people into the STEM field? How do you get them to be educated on STEM? And it's affordability, it's access. A lot of it is policy driven, right? And government driven, religious driven, culturally driven. And then how do you get them some of the credentials that they need, and then get them in those jobs and keep in those jobs? And it really is all about partnership. One of the things for Caterpillar is that we co-create with our partners. So it's not just on inspiring and getting them into these programs, is how do you keep them in these programs? And it is mentorships. The social media is fantastic. Connecting all of these different women in these different professions is very important, the sort of whole digital age, right? And then making sure that we're working with organizations that are trying to break down some of these barriers. One of the things for Caterpillar, since we're in so many different countries, we really do focus on the individual country, culture. We take great guidance from our local leadership on what works in that town, in that provincial area, in that country, and really try to follow some of these women. Just last year, we were able to bring in over 36,000 young girls into these programs, provide 10,000 different credentials, credentials for 10,000 different women, and then place them in 36,000 different jobs. And so how do you make sure that, again, they're supported by their communities to stay in those jobs, we feel is very, very important. And mentorships is key there. And the more they see other women, the more they're able to encourage other women to join in.
Right, and that, to me, that all goes back to Fred's comment. You got to start with one. You got to start with the individual girl. And you know, I think the common themes, you know, that we've heard today, you know, it's definitely about that inspiration piece. It's about creating opportunities. It's about inspiring women to know what they're capable of. And then it's about how do you retain them in the workforce. And I love the fact that partnerships, global work is so critical for this. The Smithsonian, obviously, we focus on that inspiration, that storytelling piece. And so I wanted to give a shout out to our American Women's History Initiative, which started about 5 years ago and has now led to the Smithsonian American Women's History Museum that will open on the mall sometime within the next decade. But it's started digitally right now. So please come to the Smithsonian and visit that. Thank you all.
That's great.
Thank you so much for this conversation. Really interesting. I learned a lot. So thank you to all of our panelists.